Okay, are we all ready? Just that table on the right is too noisy. Are you joking? Okay, thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. Thank you for coming. And I hope you've enjoyed the snacks that we've had. Please make sure that it's all finished before you leave. Thank you. Thank you once again. Welcome to Heston and Cranford Area Forum meeting. I hope you like our new setup. If there's any other ideas that, way to improve, please email me. Thank you. Okay. We've got the guys from comms here, and he's just mentioned if there's anybody that doesn't want to have photos taken, if you could just raise your hands now, if you don't want to be in any photos. Is that okay? Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start. Apologies for any absence.
There's apologies from Councillor Riesco and apologies for lateness from Councillor Vikram Garawal. And is there any declarations of interest or any other communications from councillors? No.
Okay, minutes of the last meeting held, pages 7 to 11. If we could just approve those, please. Yes, okay. We've got a 10-minute presentation this evening from Let's Go Outside and Learn. So if you'd like to come forward. I've got the mic here at the front.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting us to come to speak today. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting us to speak this evening. I'm Frances Bennett. I'm from Let's Go Outside and Learn, and my colleague Judith from the Conservation Volunteers is going to speak after me. We've got a lot to get through, so I'm going to go quite fast. So Let's Go Outside and Learn is a community interest company. We were set up in 2015, and our aim is to introduce people of all ages to their outdoor spaces. And we're particularly interested in getting people who wouldn't normally go outside into parks and open spaces, out into their parks and open spaces, and bringing them together to socialise. Because the thing about parks is they're free, but they're also great places to meet local people. They're also great for your health and well-being as well. We're one of the partners in a project called Reclaiming the Riverside. The project initially was due to stop to finish in March 2023, but we've just got some additional funding, so it'll go on until this time next year. The project's Cranford-based, and it aims to look at a corridor along the River Crane from the 3 kilometres altogether from the M4 to the A4. And the original idea was to connect 650 people, but we've done far more than that. Judith's involved in restoring nature in 20 hectares of habitat, and she's going to tell you a bit more about that. We're doing loads of community-based activities, and the idea is to reopen a key section of the river path as well. This is I've just marked the area of the project. There's some in Hillingdon, but there's also some great spaces in Hounslow as well. Avenue Park, Way Avenue and Cranebank Local Nature Reserve. Put your hands up if you've never been to any of those spaces. Yeah, you need to get out there and explore them. They're fantastic. You're so lucky to have them on your doorstep. Lots and lots of partners, including Cranford Action Group, London Wildlife Trust, who manage one of the sites at Huckabee Meadows, and the Crane Valley Partnership, who are interested in the whole length of the Crane Valley, and Hounslow Council is one of the other partners. We're really keen to work with lots of audiences, people who don't normally engage with parks and open spaces, and those who face barriers to engaging with them. We've worked quite hard with schools and also with teachers. We've done some insets with teachers, taking them out into the parks as well. We did some social action with some young people, which I'll talk about in a bit, and also quite a lot of work with adults. We run buggy walks as well, so we take the adults out with their strollers. And we had an amazing activity in Avenue Park a few weeks ago. There's a few people that are here that I captured. And also, we've also been promoting the project in lots of different places, including this picture was taken outside the medical centre. We've got flyers over there if you want to come and collect them. Over the winter, we're doing lots and lots of activities, including some weekend walks and some buggy strolls as well. I very quickly wanted to tell you about the social action work that we've done with young people at Avenue Park. We asked them to pick a topic, and we were really surprised about the topic that they picked. They told us that they thought Avenue Park was really unwelcoming and could offer them more, and they came up with lots of great things that they'd like to see in the park. Fixed, so the tennis courts, for example, and worn pathways in the derelict building. And they also made this amazing sign, which is still, over the summer, it was there all summer, is still outside Avenue Park. They made it from natural materials, and I think it's great that it hasn't been vandalised over the last few weeks. They also told us what they'd like to see in the park. We were really pleased. They suggested an eco-hub, but they were also interested in a cafe and toilets, an area for prayer, and then lots of other really nice suggestions too. From this work, we're beginning to understand how the community uses the spaces, what the barriers are to engaging with them, but also we're really understanding what the potential is for people and wildlife as well. And there are loads of challenges. We want to make it a place that people want to be. We want to make them places that have got something to offer for everyone. And we need to remove some of the barriers. So there's a perception that it's unsafe, but it's not. There's just nobody there. We want a really rich biodiverse river corridor, and we want really strong linkages along the River Crane. So now I'm going to pass over to Judith, who's going to tell you about the conservation volunteers. Yeah.
Okay, hi there. Just a quick one. Francis already touched on the whole partnership thing. We're very grateful that we got the opportunity to work in this area, and you have such a nature jewel on your doorstep, I have to say that. For those of you who don't know the conservation volunteers, and I can't work out the button. Yeah, please do the button. This is the warm-up, you know, this is a joke section. So the Conservation Volunteers, we're a nationwide environmental charity. We work across the whole country, including Scotland and Northern Ireland. And our main goal is to improve local green spaces, bring people together, and improve their connection to each other and to those green spaces. This is just a map showing you where we are. Our main 4 aims are health and well-being, community, learning and skills, and of course the environment. And there's a lot more text, and I won't read it out for you because I'm pretty sure you can do that too, because we're also limited on time. But this training, all these 4 goals are having different effects on people. So if you look at health and well-being, you all know it's good to come together, have a natter. It's all good to be outdoors and be active. And when you come to a session with TCV, with the conservation volunteers, you have the possibility to connect to people that live locally, that have the same interests like you. You might find an open ear if you have trouble at home to chat to someone, have a cup of tea, notice the world around you, and just be in the moment. So that's one of the parts we try to provide to you. Text community. Here we have a great community, and I'm so grateful that we have Cranford Action Group and Heston Local and all the partners here. They do such an amazing job to keep the community, bring the community together, and also improve the spaces. This is a litter pick that we've done in Way Avenue open space at the beginning of the year, I think. And I think Uma is there, so she's the lead lady of the Cranford Action Group. Lots of energy. So by removing the rubbish, we improve the spaces, because we have the philosophy like rubbish breeds rubbish, and if a place looks littered, it feels unsafe. So by coming together and doing this work, we're improving the spaces and the spaces for the community. Learning and skills, we do often take volunteer officers on board, and they get provided with training from us. So they can get first aid trained, they get trained in writing risk assessments, how to run a tool talk, how to use hand tools safely. So it's a great opportunity for someone who wants to kind of get into the conservation line of work. And of course, we care for the environment. One of our patrons is that gentleman in the middle. I think you all know him, Sir David Attenborough. And by doing the work we do, we create more diversity, and as we all know, diversity is good. And which brings us to Cranford. So what kind of difference do we want to make there? So we want to show the river to the people, this asset that you have there. And we have done a tremendous amount of work to open up sightlines to the river to help people to connect with it and to enjoy it. We have created new areas for wildlife, so every time when we cut stuff back or dig stuff out, we reseed it with a more diverse meadow mix that has wildflowers in it, and that improves the area for insects, birds, mammals. People like to look at flowers, we all love flowers. So it's a win-win situation for wildlife and for people. And as I already mentioned, the litter, it makes it a lot nicer to be around there. Last one. In 2022, so we're nearly at the end of the year, we worked, just me, Francis did a lot more people. We worked with 275 volunteers on site. We transformed roughly 32 square kilometers of green river spaces, and yeah, let's go outside and learn. I looked at the numbers recently, had engaged with over 1,000 people. But I feel there is more in it. We can do better, we can do more, and that's where we need you for this project. So please come and seek us out when we're done, and hand you over to your councillors, and grab a leaflet and check out the website. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's amazing. If you just thank you. Any questions? There are mics on the table if you'd like to use it, or you could grab that one. Thank you.
Is it on? Yeah. I love this project, as I've been to quite a few of these events, and it's fantastic. One downside to the park that we're talking about is there isn't any parking, and that's quite difficult, and it hasn't got brilliant links to bus, 111 if you live in Heston. It's not got brilliant links, but I have got the solution, but I need you councillors to work with us. So along in Cranford, there are a number of faith, there's some churches, there's about 3 just very close to the park with quite a lot of parking. And when you've had events on at maybe a Saturday, they don't normally use the churches, and there's quite a lot of parking around that area that that maybe we could use to enhance people that maybe want to drive down to Cranford, because whilst I know environment, we don't particularly want people coming around in cars, but for elderly people it might enhance, and it might encourage people, but we just need the councillors to work with some of our faith groups to see if we can use their car parks which are normally empty. Thank you.
That's a really
Brilliant
good
project,
idea. No, it's a really good idea, actually. So would you be able to touch base with your Cranford council?
I had the same idea recently when I kind of looked at the maps again, because this is an issue, because places that are easy accessible, like Cranford Park on the other side of the river in Hillington. I mean, currently you can't go to their car park because they have major refurbishment going on, but that will be done by, I think, May next year-ish. They are much more visited by people, and yeah, no, I thought about that too. Thanks.
It's a really good idea. Okay, any more questions?
You know,
Okay.
in the Cranford Park on the Hillington side, if you go on the M4 side, there's a big car park over there as well. But you have to drive up to M4, then you turn left into there.
This is currently closed. It's currently closed.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't been there.
And I think if you've got mobility issues, that's quite a long way to walk, isn't
Yes.
it? So I think I love your idea. I think it's a great idea. There's also the Moxie car park as well, isn't there? That's another alternative. Yeah.
As I currently have made contact to the property manager from the Moxie Hotel, this is something I could raise as well. Once it probably needs to negotiation because they have their own security and whatever. But they want to be, green, so we might suggest it to them. Huh? No, the Moxie. Russell Road, yeah. Yeah, that's on the other side, isn't it?
So there's 2 hotels there, on either side. There's about 4.
But that one is the closest.
That's the closest. Okay, any more questions for the lovely ladies?
Make sure I get it.
Yeah.
This is not a question. In fact, if anything, it is something that I chose to get the opportunity to bring here. And right, I come straight to the point. It has come to our knowledge that we are having some kind of project involving the park ranger service. I read that. The following is based on an article appearing on the council website, Hounslow Park Ranger Service. Right. I'm sure it exists. Right. I'm sure it exists, or if it exists. Right. Well, that's something personal. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Well,
We're just doing questions.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of, because I haven't read this in this leaflet, Hounslow Council has a ranger service which is run by Lambton 360 Countryside, and they are, I think they're definitely looking for people. That's one thing I know for sure, but I don't know what it says in the leaflet because I haven't read it. Best is if there's a telephone number or email address, contact them and find out.
Two parks. In fact, if anything, I live almost at the back of the Avenue Park. We get things like people dumping rubbish. Summertime, we have the ramblers with their motorcycles. We have dogs, people walking dogs carelessly. Now, if that service did exist, all I was trying to say, I welcome it. And in fact, if anything, we would like to see a bit more in my park. That's all. So let's hope it exists.
Well, this is a relevant request because we all know that parks that are maintained by a ranger team on a regular basis do see less antisocial behavior and less littering and all that. This project actually aims to bring people into the park more, because we believe the more people use it in the way you want to see it used, it influences the whole area. And so it's not always possible, because I don't work for the council. I cannot say, yeah, let's employ a park ranger. I'd love that. Yeah, there.
Thank you. Any other questions for the lovely ladies? There's just somebody. Cranford Action Group
Just
lady.
me.
Yeah.
Hi. I think a round of applause to TCV and Elgoff for doing fantastic work in Cranford. Yeah, absolutely. They're so hardworking, and they're bringing alive spaces which have been neglected for so many years, and they are really transforming Cranford. And if you haven't seen what they're doing, you should really go and see what they're doing and get involved with them as well, because that's something that we do. So definitely a massive shout out. I also coin what Shafiq is saying, and this is a question directed to our councillors, is definitely we understand that there are park rangers, which is a fantastic initiative which is set by Hounslow, but it doesn't, unfortunately, it doesn't cover the Cranford parks, which are notoriously affected by a lot of antisocial behaviour, drinking, fly tipping, and you name it. And I think if something that does come out of it is that if we can encourage our councillors to have a voice for our Cranford parks, to in the future have such rangers for us as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? We'll take one more. There's just a lady here at the front. Thank you.
Hello. I work with the Ume Cranford Action Group. We've been talking about trying to do something with that building in that park. And I don't know if you've spoken to Ian. I'm looking at Ian over there. If you've spoken to anyone about how that's going to be funded and what we can do around that. Have you got any more information or around any plans for that?
We haven't got any information. We'd love to have that conversation as well. Yeah. So if you have it, we'd like to be part of it. Perfect. Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. That was amazing. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. We have another presentation for 10 minutes, community safety. So if you'd like to come forward. Update on street drinking and antisocial behaviour. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Do you want to?
Is that working? Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name's Hannah Watson. I'm one of the Safer Communities coordinators within the Safer Community team, and I'm joined with PC Khan.
And I'm the dedicated ward officer for Heston East Ward. I've been on this ward for almost 1 year now.
So I cover the Heston, Cranford, Osterley and Springgrove wards. I've been working here since February, so it's a short period of time, but I feel like I've done quite a bit of work in between there and got to know my wards pretty well. So the Safer Communities team follow the Safer Community strategy, which is a 3-year-long strategy which has been developed. The main priorities, the first one being residents are less affected by serious crime. Second priority, young people and adults exposed to and exploited to commit crimes receive help. And thirdly, residents work together to keep Hounslow safe. So within the community safety team, it's split into 3 remits. You've got the domestic and sexual violence team, you've got the Safer Communities partnership team, and then you've got the Safer Communities operational team, which is where I sit within. So a little bit about our team. There's 4 of us. I'm one of them. And as I mentioned, I cover Cranford, Osterley and Springgrove, and then my other 3 colleagues cover all the other wards within Hounslow. So going back to the strategy, we're following a sort of a public health sort of preventative approach. There's a bit more detail at the bottom there. And it's working with a number of stakeholders, members of the public, local community, in meeting our priorities. So since joining the team, I've dealt with a wide variety of cases. You can see listed all of the agencies I work alongside, so that's internal departments within the council and also external partners, so the police, for example, Hounslow Highways. You've got social care, housing, environmental and enforcement. And also, as you just discussed recently about the park rangers, which is a fairly new team, we work as well alongside them. So some of the cases that I've dealt with, quite a broad variety, but we've got cuckooing of properties and vulnerable residents. I'm not sure if anyone knows what that is. So that is when you get a vulnerable resident, it can be anyone really, but their property effectively gets taken over by a gang of drug dealers, and the individual is exploited, their property is taken over so they can use that property to begin selling drugs, dealing drugs, and it's sort of a hidden kind of crime. But because of it's becoming more popular, the police are seeing it more and able to get involved, and we work very closely with housing, the police, and various other agencies so we can identify them. We've got cases of harassment, intimidation, neighbour disputes, alcohol-related and social behaviour, street drinking, and drug use, drug dealing, and then women's safety concerns, so VORG. So I'm not sure if many of you know, there's a PSPO in place, Public Space Protection Order. That was brought back on the 1st of April 2022. Sorry, 2020. Yes, sorry, 2028. I thought it was 2023. And that came into force to address the issues across the borough to do with drinking. So it basically gives a uniformed constable, police officer, as well as our enforcement officers, the right to take alcohol off anyone that is drinking in the street. They can simply throw it down the drain, take off, and they can give them a warning. The initiative came into place to target the areas where we're having issues with drinking. But as well, going back to our public health model, we want to look at not only enforcing on individuals, but also looking at providing support. So whether that's recovery and access to support with individuals with drinking or gambling problems. So one of my main issues, one of my main areas where the PSBO is covering is we've got Berkeley Avenue and Meadowbank Gardens and the Way Avenue area. That's come to notice quite regularly with me and the teams I'm working with in regards to the off licenses and issues we're having with drinkers from the off licenses going into residential areas, drinking, littering, causing antisocial behaviour, urinating, not very nice things. I've been working very closely recently with police, enforcement, licensing to address these issues, as well as making recommendations to further support groups to see whether we can get support groups closer to the area so we can make referrals for people that might need that extra bit of help, because we understand that giving enforcement in the form of a ticket or a fine is not enough to sort of support someone, if that makes sense. At the moment, we do have a camera up in Meadowbank which covers the area, and I regularly make reports to CCTV to obtain images of people that I can share with the police, so it just makes it a little bit easier to identify them. And then recently I've been doing a number of pop-up events. So as I mentioned about cuckooing, one of the estates that came up as a sort of priority area was Beavers Estates. We were getting further reports of cuckooing potentially. So I held a pop-up event with the local Safer Neighbourhood team, and we were able to get hold of a number of literature which we gave out to residents and local businesses around there, just informing them of what cuckooing was and what they could do to help residents. And it actually proved really successful. We got a number of residents come forward and give us intelligence reports, which the police are now following up. And going back to another success story we've got here, in Heston, working on a neighbour dispute. As I mentioned in some of the cases, a lot of our cases that we get through are neighbour disputes which unfortunately have escalated into pretty more dangerous and serious situations. A local Safer Neighbourhood panel had a resident address me and inform me that they were being harassed and intimidated by their neighbour. It was ongoing for a long time. I was able to establish a good working relationship with all the agencies, get professionals meeting on hold put together, and we were able to put in place the correct legal enforcement to protect that resident and also the other neighbours. It's been a long-going case. Cases don't get resolved overnight, shortly, sadly, but it's been successful and the resident is really grateful for everything that happened. I'll just pass you to PC Kong because I realise I've been talking for a very long time.
Thank you, Hannah. Firstly, I just wanted to say that it's really nice to see so many people turn up and trying to actually make a difference to their community that you guys live in. As the local police officer for Heston East, over the sort of last 12 months, I've seen that a lot of the reports that we get, they seem to be coming from places where people feel that it's an isolated issue. If we go back to the sort of third or fourth slide, which Hannah sort of put up, there was a list of this one. These issues, a lot of the times, and in almost every report that we get, they're all interlinked. And the main long-term solution for these problems is a community like ourselves. It's where we have a multi-agency intervention that could be either through the council, policing, social services, women's sort of domestic abuse helplines and charities, all those different things. When they come together and work together, that is how we can address this and give a long-term solution. And unfortunately, even going to loads of sort of different meetings and street briefings and all these sort of different types of engagements that I've had with my residents, what I felt is there's too much energy and too much time being invested in things where people are criticising the council, the Met, or a specific agency. And when you ask them, ultimately, when you give them that power and you empower them for a solution, they will say they will either not respond or they will either just sort of keep on going on about the problem. Okay, and I think today something like this sort of forum and even our ward panel that we have almost every 3 months now, the main sort of thing that we need is people to come together and look for a solution. And you know, you guys might be having this on your street, on your sort of block of flats, or wherever you guys live, or whatever it is that you do within your job. People really like to sort of go over and over the problem, but when it comes to the solution, you know, I'll just give you a very small example, like drug dealing. Now, that might not affect us directly because, you know, I can appreciate we're not drug users and we're not drug dealers, okay? But a lot of that stems into women's safety issues. There's loads of women in this room. When we walk through an alleyway or we walk through, for example, Lambton Park, which is what I cover, you know, that drug dealing, those drug dealers are 99% armed with something, you know, and they're not really desirable, tasteful individuals, and they will offend, whatever offence that is. So ultimately what we need is to look at these things as an interlinked chain of problems and try to find the solutions and work towards them. So obviously at the end of it, we'll welcome your questions as well and your input on all these different things and whatever your experiences are.
Yeah, so echoing on, you know, following on from what PC Khan has said, our main purpose of the community safety team is to work closely with residents, find out what you guys want, what would make you feel safer, whether that's CCTV, whether that's improving lighting, where areas are that you don't feel safe, because often, you know, we'll get very, very vague reports that come through, and, you know, the police are doing the best they can. You know, someone will come in through and say, oh, there's a drug issue here, but then have you reported to the police? No. Okay, well, we need you to report that because the police need the figures, the police need that intelligence to be able to target patrols to that area, to put the resources in, you know, because I'm sure PC Khan can back me up on here. If you don't tell us, we can't help. So going on from that, what's next? So as we know, it's getting much darker now. And we've been prioritising a few areas of concern. So we've been looking to do police-led walk and talk events in open spaces. So for example, Lambton Park, unfortunately that didn't go ahead last Friday due to the very, very heavy rain. But we will be carrying out more events like that. We encourage, especially for women's safety, we encourage women to join us. There's a lot of women's safety walks going on as well. We also do pop-up events, so you would have seen some photos of me there doing my little pop-up events around various locations. The next one I've got potentially coming up is going to be in Cranford, outside Tesco, just to engage again with communities. I know some of the issues that are going on there, but I don't know enough, so we would really welcome if you'd like to come along and tell us. As it says here, violence against women is going to continue to be a priority across the borough, across all agencies, police included. We've got a dedicated domestic violence support team who they do run a weekly drop-in centre, but I understand from talking to residents that Cranford in particular doesn't have great access to that. So what can we do to provide services there for women that need that? And as I've gone on about as well, alcohol. So we're looking to continue to target the alcohol-related ASB problems. So that's targeting jointly with police, licensing, enforcement, and making that a priority because, you know, there's many factors that link into this, but if we can get a solution, we'll keep going for it. So yeah, if you have any questions, please let us know.
Okay, Councillor Mann, I've got, and then I'll take the gentleman at the front.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I welcome Hannah and PC Khan to this meeting because it's very rare to have the police colleagues at this meeting. A lot of things that you've done in your presentation, you know, we actually accept as the Council for Heston East. However, we find that there is a great difference between the theory and the practical. And the danger here is that when myself and Councillor Lau, we sit on the police panel and we meet the residents who also sit on the police panel to report some of the difficulties that they're facing, like drugs. And this is the lady who, and I'm sort of on her behalf, she runs a WhatsApp group for almost the entire area. She's stating that she reports the drug dealing regularly, but nothing happens. Nothing happens, nobody turns up, she gets no call back, so in the end, she's stopped reporting. Now, the community engagement is key because we are your eyes and ears, and we are a team. I always regard us as a team. But when one part of the team is unable to see any meaningful results, they give up. And once they give up, you become blind. And therefore, what I'm asking you, because we've already had a, shall we say, a frank discussion with the PSCO Andrew Binion, right, from Heston East, and he already knows the views of the entire group of that room in the last police panel. And it was very much that, look, we're doing our bit, but the police colleagues are not doing their bit. And that's after a spate of catalytic converter thefts, 3, 4 in as many days in Heston East, drug dealings, cars parked where, you know, drugs are being facilitated, these little kids on cycles. And, you know, so it has to come to a point where we're putting up priorities, they're the same priorities, they're the same problems manifesting all around the borough, but yet there doesn't seem to be any meaningful results. I take on board your pop-up events. The only thing I will say is that the local councillors need to be informed. The councillors who don't actually represent that ward but live in that ward, they also need to be informed because they also are able to influence people. And this is all about getting many eyes and hands to work. So if you please take those on board, I'd be extremely grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mann, for your input. I don't want to spend any time justifying our lack of resources, okay? We have had a very horrific email from our borough commander, Mr. Wilson, yesterday saying that it will only get worse. Unfortunately, we are now going to be put on 12-hour shifts, but to cover a response team, to meet all the immediate calls and the substantive calls. And that is why, unfortunately, that whole narrative of the Met, where SNT, Safer Neighbourhood, is seen as a luxury, that's only going to become more prevalent. It's also a massive disservice to everyone in this room that there's not a police sergeant or a police inspector in this room, because ultimately they are the decision makers. And some of the issues that Councillor Mann highlighted, those issues are way above even an inspector's pay grade. And at the moment, like I said, there is a massive disparity between what our senior leadership team, what they are saying and what they actually mean and what's happening behind the surface, and what myself as a frontline PC are experiencing. So I can only speak for myself on an individual level. I have had 120 stop and searches in the last 6 months. Most of them have been around Neville Close, Brandon Road, Lambton Park, and most of them have resulted in a positive outcome where, you know, somebody will be given an ASB warning not to return, or that information will then be shared with the community safety team as well, so that they are also aware. And if those people are going on to other hotspots in Heston and Cranford, that will flag up on other PC systems. So you know, that is, again, I don't want to go back to this idea of saying we haven't got resources, we haven't got PCs, we haven't got vehicles. That doesn't make any difference to how important you guys are and how important drug dealing and all these other, you know, safety-related concerns are for us. So I don't want to trivialise that and say, you know, an I grade, an immediate grade call where someone's getting stabbed in High Street, Hounslow, and there's 20 PCs on that crime scene. That is more important than a theft of a catalytic converter. For example, I can't remember what number it is, but on Hadley Gardens, which is quite close to Fern Lane and that sort of area in Heston East, we have had a victim who's been the victim of a theft of catalytic converter 6 times. And unfortunately, none of those calls were responded to by police. And it was where he could actually see somebody holding a knife, blocking off one end of the road, and another person blocking off the other end of the road, and someone's cutting out his catalytic converter. And he can see that, and his mum is crying, and they're in their house, and police have not turned up because they're in Brentford on a crime scene, or there's no police officers, and people are running around like headless chickens. So unfortunately, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get more overwhelming for PCs like myself. But like I said, every single person in this room, your suggestion, your concern is my concern. And empathy is very important, but it's very seldom found in people like, you know, this kind of a role, because we deal with so many issues. And it's very easy to sort of say, well, you know, it's only a, you know, SNT issue, and it's not really an immediate response call, or it's drug dealing. Oh, well, you know, that is the attitude that I don't want to sort of transfer to anyone in this room. That's not what I'm here. That's not what I'm here for. So unfortunately, like you said, and those ward panels, I could not attend them because I was on response team or I was on aid. And that's, you know, that, and today, like I said, this is a disservice to you guys that there's not an inspector in this room to explain to you guys why there are massive shortcomings in the Metropolitan Police right now. And Safer Neighbourhoods is only going to get worse. There are talks behind the scenes about loads of other specialist units being disbanded and coming to Safer Neighbourhoods, so we might have bigger teams, but I don't want to give you guys any false hopes. When it comes to figures and what we're doing about certain things, my sort of stance has been very clear. Engagement is key. Every single person that reports something and that is, you know, a substantive sort of a repeat victim of ASB or a repeat victim of a neighbour dispute, we will make every effort to keep that, we call it airspace, or keep that CRIS report open for as much long as we can and try and put some long-term solutions in. We may not be there at the right time. I might be on holiday whilst, you know, there's lots going on my ward, but because I'm the only PC on my ward at the moment, it makes it extremely difficult for us to cover our ward in the way that our residents and everyone here deserves.
So hopefully, Chair, can I just come back on very, very briefly? I accept what you say, PC Khan. I did say, along with all our police panel members, that if it's above your station, we are quite happy as a police panel to go and meet those people if you can facilitate the meeting with your inspectors or the Tri-Borough commander, because it is so imperative to get the people on board. Without residents, you're not going anywhere, right? Now, the other issue is, by having low visibility and lack of resources, I can tell you, and this is not a Heston East case, but it's a local area case, where a few years ago, a group of Romanians, they were in a Mazda 6 car, and they were taking gold off old men and ladies. It was reported to the police done nothing. Then the local youths got involved, and the set of Romanians got broken arms and broken legs, and it stopped the problem. What I'm telling you is the lack of visibility and the lack of engagement is going to give rise to vigilantism. And we are going to have a bigger problem, because when things go wrong, this guy on Hadley Gardens, I know there's been a lot of catalytic converters, Brandon Road, Hadley Gardens, Crosslands, they're the prime area. When somebody's had 6 catalytic converters, how much faith is he going to have in the police service? Why would he bother reporting it? Because he knows that nothing gets done. So you know, it's far easier to go and get a group of people together to challenge those people. Because I was doing some casework in the leaders ward, and there was a gentleman who faced up to the catalytic converter thieves, and he actually ended up having severe head injuries. Now, this cannot be that residents who are law-abiding are actually getting, you know, hospitalized, and these people who are nicking catalytic converters get away scot-free. What is going on?
So your first comment that you made about facilitating the panel members meeting our senior leadership team, that's something I can ask. Hopefully I can ask my inspector, who's Mr. Sharma. I will ask him the question, certainly, and if he can obviously attend, if he is able to attend, I am more than happy to facilitate that for you guys. I will make the effort. Hopefully they will respond to that and take it positively. The second thing is vigilantism. Obviously, we cannot say that we support that in any way. We cannot say that we will support that or say encourage that in any way. However, obviously, I know that there has been a lot of, especially with Hadley Gardens, a lot of the residents have said that when they see this happen, they just want to come out and help the person. And then I'm like, well, they've got a knife on them, or they could have more, you know, offensive weapons on them in their car. And they're like, well, it doesn't matter because the police don't come. So unfortunately, you know, I can see that happening. I can see that things are going to get worse. We need to stay together. We need to work together. And our engagement needs to get better, definitely. I, as a single PC in my ward, I can only reply to as many emails in 24 hours as I can. I can only take as many crime reports and stop and searches as I can. And again, officer safety comes into question as well. If I go and respond to a theft of catalytic converter and I get injuries in my head, then you won't have anybody on your ward. So that's another thing that we also need to take on board. But the main thing which I want to emphasise, and which is what I got from you as well, Councillor Mann, is that we need to work together.
Okay, I've got the guy at the front. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Anthony from Heston Farm Estate. So, I partly disagree with the councillor actually. So just recently we had some issues to do with drugs on the estate, which we actually got our residents to do the anonymous reporting line and doing it online and so on. And actually success would actually be where, as a TRA or so on, or a group, which is actually showing people how to report anonymously properly and how to get people on board. Now that's something we have been doing. Now we had, say for instance, about 7 to 8 individuals showing, this is right by a park by the way, a park from 5, 6, 7, 8 year olds, and then you've got another park not far on, which would be your teenagers. Now these are witnessing this regularly. So we called your team. We then found a way of reporting it anonymously and dealing with it in a different way, and your team come out and raided them and done a great job. So there is a success on how things can be done, and I can sort of agree where you're coming from in some ways, but I also disagree with you, because some of what you're saying about your team have done a fundamentally great job, even when it comes down to ASBO. Yeah, we had a problem with that on Heston Farm Estate, and that's been dealt with, where they've actually had to put, like, instead of charging, they said, right, we're going to give you 2 a warning, like 2 particular families. Now, as a TRA, we've been dealing with that. And then what we've also done is how to break it down about forms of harassment and more, on how we can stop that, even down to sexual abuse and more. So we do everything that we can as a community to let our community know. And that in itself also does have a positive outlook, because when you do that and you can see people are talking, some of this does disappear. Yes, all right, you get rid of one druggie and other 5s come along, whatever. But the bit you didn't touch on is the other part. So, all right, you've got your drug dealers, then you've got obviously your addiction, people with addiction and so on. And then you have your other crime to do with burglaries and more to fund for them to do it. How do you tackle that? Again, it's the same thing. Giving the right relevant information and tackling people that are reporting for rubbish and stopping that. And saying, look, don't report for stupid things which is irrelevant, or it's actually nothing. Oh, they dumped something. One bag. Oh, call the police. No, call your housing officer.
Sorry, what's your name?
Anthony Stoko.
Okay.
So it's about how you pass this on. It's about how you let your community know and what to report, at what levels, and what goes to your housing officers or teams in the housing departments. That breaking it down in itself takes away 15, probably even 20% of you having to go out and start saying, well, look, I'm here because of this. Irrelevance. So that's something that, you know, I think you need to add to this about how people are reporting things properly. What goes to the housing officers? What goes to the other groups? So then you don't have to attend these things, because that's why you have the housing, your tenancy agreement. What does state very clear on what comes under you and what comes under the council. If you break that, you ain't got a house. So that's something I think that the councillors need to take into more effect and say, well, actually, we're going to tackle this by this. If you've got a son and a daughter which are, I don't know, naughty people causing lots of problems, well, Mr. Hello, this is going to affect your tenancy and we're going to move you on. Now, in itself, that does have another issue, because you might be passing it on to another family. But in itself, having that punchline to make a mum and dad to do what they should be doing to their children instead of being scared to say, oh, you've been naughty. This is, you know, this is something that the council's got to look at.
No, definitely. Philip, would you like to come in?
Yeah, my original point was very simple. I just want to pick up what you were saying, which expressed very eloquently. That it clearly is a matter of cooperation between the variety of, is this on? A variety of cooperation between the council, the police, and the residents. And it seems to me what we have to talk about is a different sort of policing. You know, we can't always be there, or the police can't always be present. They may have to target certain things under priority from time to time. We may have to talk about the way in which the council and the police work better together with their enforcement officers. Clearly that's all very important. And we don't know what those solutions might be. But it can't be the way we've dealt with in the past. It's got to be different. It's got to be a different sort of cooperation. The very minor point I was going to make at the very beginning, though, is I wanted to take issue, I'm very sorry, with your point about people complaining to you, and almost every time you go to a call, someone complains about something or other. I understand the frustration about that, but a complaint is the way in which the community illustrates what's wrong. And it's part of a council's job, part of a councillor's job to hear complaints all the time and sift to decide what's important and what's not important. And it's the same with the police. It's very frustrating. Many years ago, I used to be a social worker in safeguarding and child protection. And I had to deal with a lot of complaints from the public about, and it was quite a challenge to negotiate what was a problem, what wasn't a problem in the way you're saying. But complaints are important. We can't dismiss them.
No, of course. I didn't mean to say they're not important. They are very, very important to us. Yeah. What I meant was there's far too much time and energy being spent on complaining and critiquing the lack of something. Yeah. And when we say, well, here's a solution, why don't you come out with us on a walk and talk, for example, or, you know, when I email them, asking them for more details, I don't get anything back. No, so that is the main sort of concern for me.
I understand that. And to finish, I just want to say, policing has to change. We've got to do it differently. And I don't know the solutions. You may not know the solutions. The new chief inspector, whatever he's called, of the commander of the Metropolitan Police, has enormous problems. We know the difficulties the Metropolitan Police have had to deal with. They are terrible. Some awful incidents have occurred which has undermined confidence. But it's got to be a cooperation between all of us.
Thank you, Philip. Just got Councillor Garawal and then there's a guy behind.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. First of all, apologies. My train from Manchester was delayed, but I'm pleased to be here. On top of all, because you've picked the best ward in the borough to host this meeting, Cranford, and one of the best schools. So thank you for that. It's a really important point, and the officer, I appreciate you're on a bit of a sticky wicket you're hugely stretched. It'll only become that case more, and you've eloquently touched on that point. So surely that means we have to be more nimble with what we do, smarter, and I think some of the members of the public have touched on this, and also just a bit more innovative about the way we work, i.e. being able to cover larger areas with less people. So an example could be a more sophisticated and better CCTV infrastructure network, so we can catch these individuals. Vigilantes is a word that was used. Catch these individuals, punish them effectively. So the CCTV quality and footage is enough to actually identify people. And secondly, you've got this, so many people in this room, so many people just from Cranford alone that are community champions of this area. So I appreciate recruitment might have been an issue in the past, but having more community officers, more bobbies on the beat from the voluntary sector, not necessarily a paid officer, is a deterrent, purely from a visibility perspective. So driving that more, especially in ethnic minority communities where we need to still keep pushing and advancing in that area. I appreciate there were a lot of vacancies. It'd be good to know from you what the vacancy rate is, how recruitment is going, but also for us to keep pushing recruitment drive for community officers to increase our voluntary element of the police. So smarter CCTV, a more expanded CCTV network, and also more voluntary officers are two solutions I would propose to you to help make our streets safe, because they do need attention, not just in Cranford Ward, but across the whole borough and this area forum in particular. So thank you.
Thank you, Vikram. I've got the guy behind you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting us all. This is the first time I've been to one of these, so really appreciate it. I came along because in a couple of WhatsApp groups that I'm on, including Heston Action Group, but also my street, the message got through that this event was happening. So hands up, how many from Ringway turned up? Precisely. And this is a lack of, there were a lot of voices saying, I'd love to come along, or yeah, let's go, blah, 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 but no one else has turned up. It's not about words, it's about action, right? And so the thing is, I totally get all of the points that everyone's making. There's issues that people need to bring not just issues and problems, but solutions, as this lady said earlier on. And also, when solutions are brought forward, as Councillor mentioned about cameras, we actually get it done. So we've been on Ringway been saying we need cameras because there've been cat thefts, there've been break-ins, there've been children that have been followed along the road by guys propositioning them. So all of those things are going on, and we've said, can we have cameras? And we have our great councillors here who are pushing that forward. But surely that shouldn't be a cost issue anymore. It should be widespread that we can catch them on the cameras, as the councillor said, and be able to identify number plates, faces, and if they are masked, then you can still find them somehow. I'm not saying we're going to aggressively tackle these individuals. I'm saying demonstrate that we're able to see what's going on, even if we aren't out there, at night time watching what's going on. And I think it needs somebody to fund some of this. It's not a huge cost, really. It could be some of the private sector housing organisations, because they have a lot of tenants on our road, and they have 50% of the tenants on our road. The tenants aren't interested because they can't afford it for whatever reason, right? They're not going to be interested. But the private sector housing groups should have a long-term interest, and I think we should do it. Sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm here, Councillor Sharma, I'm here as a resident. I live in Cranford, I live actually on Beavers, and I'm looking at the information here. I wasn't actually made aware, I'm on the estate, I wasn't even made aware that there was a pop-up event that took place, and I know that there's probably quite a few of my neighbours that were not aware. As a resident of the estate, and obviously my neighbours now know that I'm a councillor, I am getting knocks on my door from my neighbours about the policing, about the antisocial behaviour and the drug dealing that's going on. I actually called the police myself a couple of weeks ago because the local shop was selling alcohol, which they're permitted to do, but it was to men, it wasn't to teenagers, it was to men, but they were allowing them to drink outside. this caused this caused anxiety to my teenage daughter who wanted to go to the shop because they were jeering at her. I called the police. I actually called Safer Neighbourhood, the wardens first, and was told that it was not in their remit. And then I called yourselves. No one showed up. These men, these grown men, were drinking alcohol. They were totally intoxicated, all opposite the school, opposite my house as well, doing balloons, doing CO2, the nitrous oxides. Eventually, when I had my area forum in Brentford, I actually brought it up to the sergeant down there, and I was told that unless they have the canisters, over 200 of these canisters on them, they can't even be arrested for it. And it's absolutely ridiculous, because it's this with obviously the grown men or these street drinkers, and obviously the youth that are doing this, that are causing some of the antisocial behaviour that I'm actually seeing in my neighbourhood. But I thank you for what you do, because it is a thankless job.
Thank you, Councillor Sharma. Yes.
Thank you. It's Elliot Brooks, Director of Communities. I just wanted to quickly point out a couple of things, partly in response to or reassurance, hopefully, for Councillor Mann. Obviously, the Council's lead Cabinet Member for Safety, Councillor Ajma Grewal, and she meets with the Borough Commander, Mr Sean Wilson, every 2 months, with other senior officers and senior leadership team members from the BCU. And they do have, I mean, in fairness to the police's senior leadership team, they are very open with the council in terms of the stretched resources. You know, they've had all kinds of challenges lately with regards to the passing of the Queen, a lot of the protests that have been taking place in central London when resources do get pulled away from the borough. However, I think we also have to take a moment just to remember that the council itself does fund additional police officers. We have the LBH funded team, so we do benefit from that. So even if sometimes resources do feel stretched, we have got that backup, and the council does have an influence about how those resources can be deployed. So when we hear excuse me, when we hear specific issues around certain estates or certain areas, we can be nimble with those resources. So whilst nothing's perfect, I would like to say, just on behalf of the council, that the working relationship with the police, whilst not perfect, is getting better. And the communication from the senior leadership team with the lead member, Councillor Grewal, is strong.
Okay, thank you for that.
I just wanted to say apologies for not potentially publicising the Beavers Estate pop-up. That is something I will take back and make sure going forward that these events are better publicised.
So,
from the photograph, I might be wrong, but it looks like this is outside the doctor's surgery on Chinchilla.
Yeah.
It would be better if it was at the hub. It'd be more central.
That's fine. Yeah, I think that at the time that was the only place we could get, but we did do a door knock around. But again, I will make sure that I feed back to everyone and we get it publicised better, and a better location would definitely be taken on board. Further to your comment about the drinking, I funnily enough had a meeting yesterday with our enforcement team. I've just been having a conversation about drinking and how our Hounslow Council enforcement team can be involved if people are drinking outside premises. I've also been given contacts with the police licensing team. So if you'd like to discuss that further with me, we can definitely do that.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question. Are you a member of the OWL? Okay. And that wasn't publicised on OWL, was it? Okay, I'll bring that to the dedicated ward officer's attention as well.
Where are you advertising at the moment then for this pop-up?
I have not advertised it because it's not my ward, but I think the way that they would have advertised it is probably through door knocks and potentially on Twitter as well. So the way that I would advertise something personally, apologies for that, again on their behalf. The way I would advertise something is I would do it on Twitter, on OWL, and then all the areas around it. So say if it's Lambton Park, Neville Close, Lambton Avenue, Hart Road, all the areas around it, we would do letter drops in all those areas and door knocks with our, Okay. You've not had that? Okay.
I've just got the last lady right at the far corner. Right at the back, Matthew.
Hello. I want to ask the question that why the policing was rounding on the road, the street, our road, and all of a sudden it is stopped. Twice a day, 2 police officers giving the round on our road. Most of the old Delhi people are living on the street. And nobody is taking care now. Why it is so? Is it short of place, or what it is the matter that have neglected the elderly people?
What road do you live on, sir?
Greencroft Road, near to the Ibis Hospital, Ibis Hotel.
Heston Central Ward, okay. So just to quickly answer your question from a policing perspective, and then I'll pass it on to Hannah from an LBH perspective. Very quickly, sorry. We, in terms of Heston Central, we have one police officer there. We've got one PCSO there. Unfortunately, like we sort of said earlier on, they're always being used up for various other things. But if Greencroft Road is being, it's got loads of LD residents, I will pass the message on to them and then leave it in their court to take it further.
Yes, the other thing is, why not this litter was throwing on the road? I pointed out in this one chap going through with his parents, and I asked them, why you are throwing the litter? This young chap said, mind your own business. I said, mind my own business. It is the business of everybody.
Just about the litter.
Making the streets so dirty that even in the third world or anywhere,
Okay.
not like that. And
That's
they are
fine.
throwing on 70s or 60s. They are, every bus it is written that if you throw the litter, it will be fined £10 or 20 pounds, whatever may be. And it was stopped. The police has got right to fine it at the spot. But no litter.
I think that's a different issue we could take in
is
the
taking
area forum.
action at the moment.
The open forum, okay. Thank you, Mr. Khan.
Thank you.
Could we take Joan right at the far corner? Matthew, just right.
It's the last question before the.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you for being honest about the resources of the police. I understand the problems that you have. There's obviously been an increase in antisocial behaviour. I've lived in the borough for many years and seen the decline in the area, sadly. One of the things I just wanted to say is regarding alcohol. I appreciate the drug problem. I don't know what an answer to that is. I think the gentleman said about CCT and cameras is a very good idea. But the issue of alcohol, it's sold widely everywhere. I mean, I know supermarkets sell it, but I live at Hounslow West. The shops that are along there, they all sell alcohol. It's too freely available. We get people where we live sitting in cars, drinking alcohol, leaving their tin cans on the road, and as you say, urinate. Also fast food restaurants, the rubbish, and it just encourages, more antisocial behaviour. I just wondered whether the council have any control over the issue of licences for selling alcohol.
So yeah, as I kind of mentioned earlier about licensing, I did have a meeting yesterday with them, so they were able to clarify their remits, especially with alcohol, with selling alcohol and sort of the products they can sell. Certainly, if I'm getting enough reports, and the police are as well, about certain shops, then I can put a request in that they do an audit, they review it, and if it is a problem, then they have the remit to be involved in that sense. As I mentioned in my presentation, the Public Space Protection Order, if you're seeing that with people drinking, especially in cars, potentially driving, I would say report this to the police as well. It's something that we need to be aware of. Enforcement officers might walk past and see it as well, and can certainly take the alcohol off them and report that back as well to the police. But in terms of enforcement, I can continue to have those conversations with the enforcement team. There are things they can do, and they will do if we get enough evidence from residents.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. I don't think we have any petitions. We're going to go to the open forum now. Sorry? So open forum, 30 minutes. Any questions, anybody? Got the lady at the front. Thank you.
I just wanted to support what PC Khan was saying. I chair the S&T team for Cranford, and I'd be really interested to talk to the lady from Beavers Estate after this meeting, if we could. I chair the S&T for Cranford, so I work with the police team and the neighbourhood team, so it'd be great to talk to you. In regards to not getting any responses, everyone still needs to report the crime, because there's going to come a time where the police are going to be fully staffed, and we need that data. Even if you think it's a minor crime, we need that information. It's going to be important. Don't let your efforts go to waste on that. I just wanted to just say that. Don't be disheartened that there isn't enough policing on the team. We do need to get the numbers still. We need to understand what our demographics are doing, what's happening in Cranford and the Heston area. So please continue to make that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, keep reporting. Anybody else? Your opportunity now to speak.
Yeah, if I may ask a question, a general question, maybe I'm ignorant, I don't know. But all these things we have been talking about, they're all well and good. But is there a central repository on the Hounslow Council website where you could actually put all these issues on a ward-by-ward basis? I think it's an open question to the council, really.
I don't believe there is, but just like, okay, leader of the council.
Well, we have the dedicated page for the Heston Cranford Area Forum, which we probably need to use a little bit more constructively to put these issues up. But I'm really clear, putting the issues up is one thing, trying to find solutions and be honest about some of those solutions. We also need to be able to report that back on the Area Forum website as well, and that's something that I've, along with Councillor Garewal, who's the lead member for communities, we're very clear on. We need to give you an honest answer. Sometimes we won't be able to do anything, and we need to be honest about that. And sometimes we might go halfway to where you want us to be, and we need to be honest about that as well. And sometimes we can do it, but we need to be able to communicate that back. So the point that the gentleman makes is valid, and something that I'll ask the team to take back as well.
Okay, anybody? Okay, I've got the gentleman there.
Thank you. This is a question for the councillors, for Councillor Shanstone in particular. I'm sure everyone in this room appreciates that we're in a serious cost of living crisis. Since February this year, Hounslow Council has been issuing over £430,000 of fines a week on just one road in the borough. I repeat that, £430,000 a week on just one road. As leader of the council, do you think that it is morally acceptable to be taking fines of almost £2 million a month from one road and not addressing the underlying problem? Is the council also not making a laughing stock of itself when it claims the signage on this road is, and I quote, adequate? Signage that 10,000 motorists a month are not seeing. Is this what the council meant when its Assistant Director of Traffic described the effects of this restriction as, and I quote, a price worth paying? What do you say, Councillor and Leader of our Council, to the nurses and teachers and care workers who can't afford to heat their homes because after several months you are sending them hundreds of pounds of fines in one go? It's appalling.
It's Chiswick. It is Chiswick. So just to be really clear, fines that we make through low traffic neighbourhoods can be spent on traffic schemes only. They don't contribute legally to anything else and go towards anything else. On the broader point, we are engaging with local communities, with the local community in the area on some of those schemes as we're going forward. So where a fine exists, it exists, and it's followed the legal and due process.
It's coming to you very soon in Heston, I'm sure, and you'll be delighted to have it.
Okay, any more questions in the open forum? No? Okay. Councillor Mann.
Sorry, Chair. It's not really a question, but it is a recognition of some of the work some of our local councils have done. I want to pay tribute, and I did tell to the leader that I would, because basically Crosslands Avenue, Hadley Gardens, Brandon Road, all those, the weeds have been, I've complained, Councillor Lal has complained, Councillor Aksa Ahmed has complained on this issue. We've had several ward walkabouts regarding this, and I'm happy to say that that's actually the work has been completed, and may I thank the leader of the council for getting involved, and also getting involved on the wheatlands, which I mentioned, and that I did highlight to him that is a conservation area, and the footways need to be like for like, and he's made sure that he will investigate that and get that done. So I want to say a big thank you to him. Thank you.
Thank you, leader. Thank you. Okay, so all the... Yeah, I've just got the lady behind you and then we'll come to you. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, my question is, we have been talking about alcohol and abuse and all the crime related to alcohol. So borough should ban alcohol selling after, you know, when it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Then people going around the borough, they're looking for the bottles, they won't find it. And that will reduce the crime. Apart from that, and we should ban all these adverts continuously on television. We are selling buy one, get one free and all that kind of thing. The big businesses, they are making money out of this selling alcohol. The second thing is, we talk about burglaries in the borough. And if you watch television, there is a company, or there are a couple of companies, constantly advertising, we buy any gold, anytime. You bring it, we buy and sell any gold, anytime. So all these burglars, they know exactly where they snatch and where they take and sell it. And there is no accountability for this. So these two things should be looked at seriously. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for raising that. Thank you. And I've got the gentleman at the front.
Yeah, I've got a general question for the council, and it applies to the whole of the borough, not just Heston and Cranford. Over a number of years, I've been seeing that the social housing are popping up everywhere in the borough, which is good earning for the council in terms of the council tax. However, how is this increase in social housing affecting the existing so-called taxpayers in terms of their services? And when I say services, not just the borough services, NHS, electricity, gas, and everything. So it's an open question to the council, really.
Councillor Shantanu, could you help?
Yeah, happy to have a go on that one, Chair. Just on the point on licensing, I think everyone in this room, Councillor included, would like to prevent alcohol sales. Legislation, unfortunately, is against us on that, but we can take steps to help that. So there's something called a cumulative impact policy. So, sorry, it's a little bit technical, so bear with me here. The Licensing Act says that you grant, unless there are reasons not to, where you can implement a policy in a specific area. You can change that presumption to not grant unless there are very good reasons to grant. And I'm pleased to say that parts of Heston, I think most of Heston, is in that policy area, so it does make a bit of a difference. But nonetheless, the Licensing Act is against us as a local authority. In that respect, with regards to the adverts, I'd love to stop some of those adverts, but that's out of our control. On the point around social housing, we have 5,000 people waiting for housing in the borough at any given time, so we do have a need. These are people that are incredibly vulnerable. It's often a discussion around services, and I suppose the reassurance that I would like to offer to residents is we do everything in our power to try and affect change in infrastructure to meet the demand of additional people in the area. We have to acknowledge that whilst for you it's the council and it's the council that's building, and it's the council that's responsible for the infrastructure that goes around that. Our role, in many respects, is influencing people like the NHS for doctor surgeries, using our resources around school places, acknowledging that a lot of school places are outside of the local authority now, and roads and the network, and we ask for contributions from developers to help with infrastructure projects, as well as environmental projects, as we've heard earlier tonight. So we genuinely do, but it is often a slow process. So bear with us, we are working on it throughout all the processes.
Thank you, Leader. Do we have...
So can I directly ask a question to the head? It's three-part question, if that's all right. One of the things that we encounter a lot of problems with is Transport for London, and their lack of responses to the state of our roads and highways. Historically, from what I remember, Transport for London is a relatively new thing. These roads, which are now Transport for London, used to be London Borough of Hounslow and managed by London Borough of Hounslow, and I can recall that they used to do that really, really well. Since Transport of London have come along and, you know, taken the responsibility for these roads, which I will probably say actually that's a lack of responsibility of the roads. The roads are a mess. They mow the grass without litter picking the grass, and Hounslow Borough have declared their pledge to the climate recovery and the green recovery agenda. So that's one of the issues that we have, is a better either take it away from TfL and go back to being London Borough of Hounslow, or deal with them quite assertively. They need to be dealt with more assertively in order to make our street spaces better. Number two, what I would like to, and I don't know whether on the grand scale of things, I think this might seem a bit trivial, but I think the climate is a very important part of where we live. Antisocial behaviour is a lot to do. The mess from antisocial behaviour is a lot of the troubles we have. But I will also equally say is the recycling boxes that we have. They create half of the litter which is on our streets, and which are degrading our local environment and green spaces and our street spaces, and even to go to say our blue spaces. Now I know that you will say, probably one of the things you will say, well, it's the design of your vehicles, that's what they're designed to do. You have this maybe not 25-year policy now, but maybe that's less. But it is the design of the vehicles which deter you from changing your boxes. Now, I do understand you have nets. The nets are not good. They are the worst thing that you can have, because I myself lose my nets, and I really do care for the environment, but admittedly, I lose my nets. Sometimes the nets get thrown in the waste when the recyclers come and get it. And also, I have to say, from my own personal perspective, and from the people that live around me, is the lack of respect the operatives have for the environment. You know, really, you know, they don't go hand in hand. It really is a lack of respect for where we live, because they don't have the same respect that we have. And number three, I just want to understand, because I don't really understand the transparency of developments in the area with the local people. The one I will bring forward is, for us, is the development of Heathrow House. Heathrow House, which sits on the Bath Road opposite Big Tesco's. There is a lot of things being said, people say things, I don't know what the transparency is. And one of the things I will also say is, it's quite hard to spot those signs that you put up on lampposts. You have to probably need glasses. I probably need glasses to read them. The signs for development, the signs that this is going to happen. People with their busy lives fly past them, they don't see them. And if there was a signpost come up, a sign, your paper signs that you put up on the lamppost to say the development is taking place, I didn't know about it. I think there needs to be other ways of communicating that information to people. And I also want to thank Matthew for and the team for organising the forum today. And one thing I will say, I am a little bit disappointed about the lack of people showing up to such an important cause, because we can really drive important changes through communicating effectively with you if you please do listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Okay, any more questions before we wrap up? Yes, sure.
Just to go back on one thing. So somebody said a question, sorry, it was about the housing and about the amount of people, is that correct? Can I just ask the head of council, the only thing that you did, obviously didn't mention on this as well, is for the amount of housing that's just still in the legal system as well, which is also going on, like, for people that moved out, left, and obviously the council are trying to get that property back and so on. Would you roughly have any numbers of that in your mind? Say you've got 5,000 people need homes, but yet you've got X amount of people waiting because of houses in the legal system, which are kept there because of the following issues. And some of this is also to do with people that have just left due to drug, like as what you were saying, to do with drug dealing, people who just left the homes and more. And obviously the council are trying to get them back. I mean, that wasn't mentioned here, even though you're saying 5,000 people need housing. Just to ask.
Yes, please.
I'll take all of those. Probably, let's start with the really easy one. Absolutely echo your words about the team who've organised tonight. They've done a fantastic job, and I agree with you. But seeing this many people is more than we saw at the last forum. So we've made an improvement straight away. So thank you guys for all the work that you do to get this organised. And thank you, Chair, for bringing us out of Hounslow House as well. I think it's been really effective. The point that the gentleman made was around what we call voids. So those are empty properties. The answer isn't simple. So I can't give you a number, because there are some where tenant moves out, quick refurbishment, someone moves in. That's fine. There are some that need long-term repairs, and we need to do better on that. And we're working on that, and there are various different reasons why you have voids. So it's not quite a simple answer, but the principle is, as soon as we can get a property let to someone, we do. And as I say, we need to do a little bit better on that, and we will. On the TfL roads, I think the only thing I will say on that is that's been devolved out to TfL by law, so we can't take those back without a change in legislation, and I'm not confident that we'll get any change of legislation with the current government. What I will say is that I have a very good relationship with the Mayor of London, who oversees all of these departments, and in fact I'm meeting him in a few weeks' time, so I will certainly take that up. We have a borough liaison officer from TfL called Andrew Hatch, and I'm very happy to take issues up with him, and you're more than welcome to email me or the lead member for Transport, Guy Lambert, as well, and between us we can pick that up, and I'm very happy to do that. On the recycling point, the box and nets, that's the direction of travel that government have set out for us. So what you'll find is a lot of local authorities that currently do what's known as commingle. Everything goes in a bag gets sealed and gets taken away. Actually will be going soon, and most local authorities will move to a box system. I appreciate it's not perfect, but what it delivers for us is a better quality of recycling, which we can then sell on and put back into the service. Now, that having been said, I've made a commitment when I became leader around weekly collections. Weekly street cleaning, which we're working through at the moment. So that will be coming online hopefully next year, so that you see more visible street cleaning. And it's my aspiration that that ties in with your collection day, or as close to your collection day, so your streets get cleaned, because one of the things I'm picking up is you guys all are very passionate about your streets, and you want them to be clean and tidy, as do we. So you have my commitment on that we are working on that. In terms of the operatives, there is a training piece there. It's done by Recycle 360, who are wholly owned by the council. So we have that influence. So I'm picking up what you're saying, and I'll take that back to the team there as well. In terms of developments, the signs on lampposts is only one way that we advertise. Every development is on the council website, so you can check it. There is a weekly list that is produced if you're signed up to our Newsletter, that's it. So you should have a link on there. But more broadly, we are looking at improvements into the planning computer software that we use that makes it better for residents to access that information and also then contribute to the consultation on those developments as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. There's just a lady at the back.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I was a little bit late because of the hospital. So my question is in regards of our children and youth, teenagers, whatever. So I believe that children, that's our future. And take into account a lot of comments in regards of antisocial behavior, drug use, alcohol, whatever. And I know that we've got draconic cuts in terms of local government. Is there any chance to increase some sort of maybe, I don't know, youth club, maybe some sort of engagement, teenagers and children into something more interested than just going out and taking drugs or alcohol, and just to engage them more in terms of even, I don't know, career services, because always, what I've noticed, I'm governor at St. Mark's schools, that they are always, and very often they are really lost, and at such young age, they need really a lot of support, because they look like sometimes they are 18, but they're still small young children who are a little bit lost in this world and who need our support.
Thank you, Leader.
So just on that, some good news. One of our commitments at the last election was for a young person's guarantee. Yes, in the past, because of austerity, we have had to cut youth centres, and I don't hide behind that. It's something that I regretted at the time and still regret, but it was something that we had our hands tied behind our back on, because it's not something that's statutory that we have to offer. But I want to reintroduce something similar to that, and that will all get encompassed into the young person's guarantee. But that is also about skills. It's also about training, working with schools so that we get there quickly, acknowledging that not everyone wants to go through formal education post-16, and some want to get into the job market, and we need to support them through that with apprenticeships and real skills as well. So that will all come as part of the young person's guarantee.
Thank you. Last, Councillor Mann.
Sorry, I didn't really want to speak on this, but I think seeing as a lot of the people are asking for lots of stuff from the leader, I thought I'd just help him, you know.
I do want to say that we are blessed that we have the leader here with us. Sorry.
No, as a Heston councillor, I'm very happy that we have a Heston councillor who is the leader of the council, and really I would like to see a lot more investment into the Heston Cranford area, which has been neglected for far too long. The reason why I'm speaking and is just literally to signpost a few things. We've not utilised the SIL money to the level that we should have. In the past, we've had, I think, as Heston, £6,000 of SIL. Feltham has had 34,000. Brentford and Isleworth has had 2 million. So there is a great disparity. I would like to ask the Heston leader and leader of the council to actually bring in some parity and bring in some money so that a lot of what the people are requesting, we can look at through the SIL side of things and that they can be addressed that way. Thank you.
Leader, could we have some money, please?
I promise not to pocket it. Yes is the short answer. Investment does need to come into Heston, and I fully acknowledge that. I think we have to be aware that SIL is generated from developments, and that's where it comes from. It doesn't just appear because it's a grant from government. Developers pay that money to us for developments in their area. Now, some of it is tied up to that area, so we've seen lots of development in Brentford and in Feltham, hence the higher number, less so in Heston and Cranford. What we've seen a lot of in Heston Cranford is social housing, which doesn't attract SIL, so that money doesn't come into the local area. There is a small proportion that is saved, which is known as community SIL. So any of the community groups here that have applied for Thriving Communities funding, some of that has come out of community SIL. So it generates less in this area. Now, I'm not going to advocate for more development if you want more SIL, but we are committed to spending that community SIL money, that small pot, equally across all areas of the borough.
Great. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Coming on thank you for talking about SEAL funding. Back to the leader, if I may. You, at the start of this forum, we had the lovely the conservation volunteers and Elgol giving their wonderful account of what they have been doing in Cranford for their project Reclaim the Riverside. And through volunteer participation, they've achieved a lot. However, what we are also needing is some of that still funding, which is going to be needed to be injected into this project, because otherwise then there's a loss of lottery funding, which Cranford never has received that sort of money and that sort of pledge. So if you can facilitate some of that still to the lovely people who are reclaiming the riverside, but we need that money. That money is needed in Cranford. Thank you.
Thank you. As leader of the council, I'm going to take your apologies in advance. For the next meeting, I'll take them this
No, I'm
meeting.
enjoying this.
No, thank you.
I think your point is well made. What I would say is when those bids go out, talk to your local councillors and help them facilitate the bid that goes in, because they are best placed. They will know when the funding round is available. In the meantime, there are other funding opportunities available outside of SIL. And again, have a conversation with Councillor Gurewal and Councillor Butt in Cranford around Avenue Park and around some of those other funding opportunities. I'm very happy to facilitate a conversation there, but they're here, and I'm sure they're happy to help.
And I've got the last question, the guy at the end, and then we're going to finish. Just that, if you just raise your hand. Thank you.
Hi, yes, it's Taz here, thank you. I just wanted to say, first things first, it's really brilliant to see lots of people do turn up today, and the format is working. So my sort of idea or question I have really about how we can make it even more interactive and more engaging. I mean, I know the councillor, a leader of the council had a lot of questions to him tonight, which is great, but also it shows that there's a demand to have that one-to-one time, also with our leader, but also with other councillors. But equally, getting residents to talk together. Like today, I was sort of delighted to talk to lots of new people I haven't seen before. And again, they all share the same passion about their community, about what can be changed. And also with the talk from the police today as well about their barriers. But I think together, I think there are solutions in this room, and I've been hearing them today. And I think that maybe on the next follow-up of this today, if you could somewhat find what are the hot topics in advance that people would like to discuss. So something like going out to the community, say, hey, we got a forum coming up. What are the top key issues? Label them. So then when we're coming in, people know exactly what they're walking into in terms of the key areas. And then what we could have is breakout parts of the room where people are dedicated to that one area, to that really want to focus. Therefore, those today who didn't get the chance to have the sort of magic mic on them will be able to raise their voice, say something in even a smaller group that could feed into the larger picture. So I just want to say well done to the council, all the residents turning up to here, all the groups that turned up today, because I think it has really reignited a lot of passion. And also this part of Hounslow, I don't want to be biased, but it really does have very engaging, fantastic community groups and residents that really are passionate. And I hope that does come across today. I think even people who are also having sort of feedback that could be improving our services or commending it, whether complaining or praising, that's all very helpful. But I just want to say that really a thank you to everybody, but equally if we can take that suggestion on maybe for next time. So I'm sure that because my hardest part of this of promoting this event with the big local was how are we going to sell this to people to turn up. And of course food and music does help to one's consent. It's a great way to do it, but and that's it, absolutely. But if people knew in advance what they're walking into, and it makes it easier to sell, so more residents will be attracted to come along and also invite that positive mind frame that we can make a change. That's all really, thank you.
Okay, amazing, thank you. So we do have a date for the next meeting, which will be the 15th of December, but the venue is unknown yet. So it will be on the council website as soon as me and Matthew put something together. And I just wanted to say thank you to Matthew. We've been working on this meeting for several months, and without him we couldn't have done it. And on the note of food maybe for our next meeting, a bit of champagne and caviar or something to get them all in, or a 5-course menu, Matthew? Could we do that? Yeah. So thank you everybody and have a lovely...
Chair, Chair. It's Councillor Garwal. Just to say, could we please have a round of applause for our wonderful chair for
Oh,
tonight's
thank
meeting?
And then lastly, for all the councillors, if you could get round my table for a photo. Once we've had